Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So we've spoken about marriage, and today we will be talking about the darker side of marriage, which is divorce. We're going to be talking about divorce. I think what we'll cover is what can lead to divorce, how we can avoid, inshallah, from marriage going into divorce, but also the taboos around divorce. People say divorce, and be like, oh, it's bad. Actually, sometimes it's it's necessity for a divorce to happen. And those that are divorced, is that it for them? Because that's what culture or society may say.
Getting remarried.
And get remarried, etc. So I think we'll try to cover those, inshallah. But before we do that, I think we have Sadia with a quiz.
Yeah, just 2 questions though. Okay, so this is...
What does the person who wins, what do they get?
They get a chocolate from here.
That we could access anyway.
Fair enough.
Alright, so this is stats from 2022, okay? So how many people were legally divorced in England and Wales in 2022? I'm going to give you some options.
Oh, you're nicer than me.
A, 1 million. B, 127,000. C, 80,057.
What?
So-
These are weird numbers.
So does that count as a couple or each individual person that was involved in a divorce? So is it like 8
It's
million?
like one marriage, so a couple
I guess how many divorces occurred?
Yeah, so a brother can
legally divorced.
contribute to 6, 7 of these divorces, you don't know. It's basically, yeah. So what were the options again? 1
1
million?
million, 127,000, 80,057.
2022. I mean, that was the highest number.
It's going to be.
Yeah,
I think 127,000.
127,000.
To be fair, that is a lot.
80.
Because you
Okay,
think about-
I'll do a million.
I want to do that, but if you think about it, that's
That's a lot.
like the population.
Yeah, that's
I
a
mean,
lot.
Luton's what, like 200, 300,000?
Yeah. But remember, a brother can do 6, 7 divorces.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But are they within legally binding? Because remember, these are stats from the UK legal.
Oh, legally, alright,
So
fine.
not every
Yeah, they're
Muslim.
not-
Oh yeah, there's something inshallah we'll talk about as well, Siddhi, if it's okay later on. But not all Muslims do legally register their marriages.
Yeah, that's.
I
Well,
want
let's.
to go with Siddi's answer now.
What was Siddi's answer?
127.
Okay, go on then. We all go with Siddi's answer.
Yeah.
We'll do collectively.
Collectively.
You're wrong. That's 80,000.
Siddi's been on a bit of a bad run.
Second
Bad run today.
question.
Guys, whatever Siddi says, opposite.
Okay, so remember these are stats from 2022, okay? So has divorce rate gone up or down since 2021?
Oh, it's gone up.
Well, I don't know, because does that include COVID?
Yeah, 21 includes
From
COVID.
21, basically
Divorce
this is-
rate or number of
So
divorces?
divorce
Rate.
rate.
So probably like
Percentage.
Yeah, percentage. Like 10% last year, 20.
Yeah, this is the
Looking at
percentage. So from 21 to 22, do you guys think it's gone up or do you think it's gone down? And like a bonus would be like, if you think it's up, how many percentage?
is it?
If you think it's down, how many percentage?
Okay, I think it's gone up by about 7.3%. 7.35.
What else?
Give or take 2 decimal places.
Gone up by 5%.
Gone up by 5%?
I say gone up by 4, in line with inflation.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Siddhi, your answer?
And gone up by 1% or 2.
What? Siddi's always trying to give more than one answer. A person or
Can I
2.
break the news to you?
1%.
You're all wrong. It actually went down by 29.5%.
Oh,
Wow.
So
That's-
there's something, mashallah, I think happening. I don't know. I don't know. I can't think
I don't know.
Comparing year to year is probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
compare 10-year block with 10-year block.
Yeah.
But I did think it's an interesting question because when I first looked, I was like, wait, hold on, let me look at this properly.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't. But yeah, so
Actually, yeah.
Could it also be because not many people, there's people that are having relationships without marriage, so Because that's increased. There's
Yeah.
less marriage.
Exactly.
100% people don't want to get married now.
It could also be because
But this is a percentage of those who are
Yeah.
married.
Yeah, this is a percentage of those who are married. It's not comparing apples to pears, it's comparing apples to apples, but
Those
different,
that are married
Yeah.
and like registered legally.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
within the-
Yeah.
I'm even saying like even during COVID, maybe there was like less people to accept divorce cases or something. Offices were closed, people were at home, like they're not good, like they couldn't go out anyway.
Yeah.
I think this episode's getting a bit too technical, so let's bring
I think it
listen.
raises, this is an interesting point as well, Sadi, because when we do look at these stats, it's very difficult because I wanted particularly Muslims. I
Muslims,
really
yeah.
wanted to understand that. And we can see that itself is an issue because now we might be saying, okay, in that year it did go down, but we might not be talking about Muslim divorces because a lot of Muslims, Sadi, they obviously don't register their marriages.
Marriages, yeah.
So can we actually start off with a little bit of that? Is there a necessity, is it encouraged to register your marriage legally in the country you are? In the sense of like there's
That is beyond the nikah, which is
Of
obviously
course,
Islamically.
nikah is
No, I'm just
that-
saying
yeah.
I'm
The
just saying,
registry.
it's the registry.
I'm
It's the,
talking about
It's not necessarily, it's not intrinsically recommended to do that, nor is it intrinsically disliked to do that. It really depends because on the one hand, yes, it's good to register it because legally you're recognized as a couple. On the other hand, let's say a divorce occurs and one person wants to take a percentage of the other's assets. This is haram in Islam. But if it's legally registered here in the UK, they can probably do it.
But if
You
it's
see?
haram, then shouldn't they be following? Obviously, the
yeah, we're talking about people who follow people who might not even be able to pray 5 times a day.
I'm sorry, I think I might have confused that question I said. I'm saying, Sadi, if it is haram for them to do that, like
For them to
Muslims-
take each other's assets.
yeah, then really, that's not something they should be doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
then,
they make a
then
point, yeah.
they shouldn't be
Yeah.
registering. Then on the other hand, it's, well, the wife deserves inheritance. If she's not recognized as a wife, will she get inheritance? You see what I mean?
Yeah, there's so many.
And the discussion does go on because then you could say, well, hold on a minute, okay, fine, but what if he registers but he doesn't write a will? Then she might take more inheritance than she deserves as well. And same with the husband as well.
Yeah.
The husband might take more inheritance than he deserves. There's no absolute right or absolute wrong answer. For people of taqwa and righteousness and piety who are going to stick to the Islamic rules irrespective, it's probably best to register the marriage. As people are going to contradict the Islamic teaching, don't empower them with registering the marriage.
So interesting.
Wow,
actually.
subhanallah.
Yeah.
So Siddhi, you're very experienced dealing with marriage cases. So is there anything you've noticed, like things that happened early on that may predict a
Like a
divorce?
common theme or
Yeah.
something, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Red flags.
And if you can divide them between like genders, like male, female, brothers and sisters, if there's difference in.
Yeah.
So things that may lead to divorce,
Yeah.
essentially. That's the question.
First and foremost, if we just look at it as a collective, and then I'll break it down. As a collective, very often people choose the wrong person. You see, they haven't thought enough about whether this person is right for me or not. And usually that's, not always of course, usually that's because they've emotionally attached themselves to somebody.
Yeah.
And now they have to marry this person because they are so emotionally attached. Whereas Islamically, yes, of course, you should be inclined towards the person you marry, but it should be primarily a very rational decision, not an emotional decision when you're marrying somebody. So often there's an element of that. Sometimes there's a level of naivety with regards to, so people go ahead and marry somebody. For example, they'll say, well, he prays, so obviously he's going to have good character and he's going to fulfill the Islamic teaching and such things. So obviously she wears hijab, so she's going to do everything according to Islam. There's a level of naivety as well. There are other factors as well. Sometimes, for example, the woman will agree to live with the in-laws, not understanding the implications of that. Okay, the husband might agree to something, not understand the implications of it. So that's eradicated by thoroughly studying Islam first and foremost, and then secondly the norms in your culture when it comes to marriage and such things. The most common complaint when it comes to women complaining about the husband and reason to, I won't say end the marriage, but that causes difficulty in the marriage is not giving enough time to one spouse. Okay, because a woman, that's her right, that the husband spends time with her. that's not being done. So that causes tension and difficulty, and then sometimes there's outright oppression as well. See, although that would be a form of oppression as well. On the other side, often it's the physical element, the physical need of the husband is often not being fulfilled, and then that causes tensions and difficulties and hardships. Sometimes that's in the opposite, but speaking about what's predominant, and then sometimes it's she doesn't respect me. Yeah, and especially when kids are involved, it's more likely, because the two parents have different ideas in terms, not always, but very often, of how to raise the children, how to discipline the children, and then they clash.
Conflict, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Wallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala alam. But I would say those are the main ones. There's a myriad of issues that people have, but those are usually the main ones. In the past, one of the biggest tensions was, don't want to live with the in-laws, she has to live with the in-laws.
Yeah.
That's decreased a lot in recent years. Alhamdulillah, society's moved on, Muslim communities moved on, it's less common. But in the past, that was a huge issue because it was just a massive cultural expectation.
Yeah. And those things that you mentioned on both sides, they seem like a constant from all time, isn't it?
They're not restricted to this or that culture necessarily.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So very
or the new generation.
Or the new generation.
However, I do want to ask you, do you feel, because Sidi, how many years would you say you've been dealing with like marriages and divorce? Would you say
20?
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if you saw any change between, because what I've been recently, at least I'm seeing at least conversation that happens a lot with
over 20, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Other YouTubers that we see on YouTube that are putting, like, especially if they're doing Muslim content, and they do speak about this a lot, and then you have sisters that come on and speak and brothers that come on and speak, and a lot of time the sisters, for example, a brother gets married knowing a sister works or a sister works full time or whatever it might be, and then or they study full time or whatever it might be, and they know that's the reality, and they are in fact happy with that, and then they get married, and then that becomes their complaint. So the brother's complaint might be that, like, look, I don't want you to work time now.
Yeah, I think that's going to what Sidney said there, isn't it? That one, these kind of points. I think he said that. Actually, yeah, continue. It's the. No, what I'm saying is understanding before marriage.
Yeah,
that's what you meant, isn't it?
Kind of before marriage, you understand in your community and your culture what are the big issues.
Yeah. So I was going to say before I was interrupted by someone over here. But,
stop it, Faiaz.
But I was going to say something that when that happens, obviously the sister feels, look, you knew this already. Yeah. And it's important for me to highlight this because it's a very common problem. So I know that you've answered it in a different context, but it could be the same thing.
Yeah.
However, I think it's important to address it. So what do people do in this situation? So for that brother who might feel like, look, I don't want you to work, whatever his reasons might be. It could be so many different reasons.
Yeah.
But they've married this person knowing that. So what now for them? And she obviously doesn't want to. Yeah. She feels now, look, why you married me knowing that. So how do they resolve that without?
Yeah, there's the absolute answer, and we'll start with that. If it involves a person's right, the person does have, the opportunity to insist on that right. You see, having said that, we will say that, look, this is, you've kind of misled the individual. So let me be clearer. It is the right of the husband to say to the wife that I want you to be at home more often. That's absolutely his right, no doubt. But then if before marriage he said to her, no, it's fine, work and study and do this and do, I've got no issue whatsoever. And then she accepted marriage with yourself. Partially based on that, and now you change. It's
it's not right. Yeah.
Now, of course, in the moment we are going to say to the sister, look, this is his right. For the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you should fulfill it. Okay, as long as it's not having some huge impact on her, like he doesn't even support her, and then she won't have anything to eat, or he expects her to just be home alone all of the time. We just spoke about loneliness. No, the Sharia speaks about these things when, for example, they speak about if he moves her into a very large house where she's all alone, she could experience like loneliness or sadness they speak about. You see what I mean? So those factors, of course, need to be considered. You can't say you're just here alone all of the time and you can't do anything. But yes, he does have that right. But then we will also say to the brother, look, why did you do this to her? You've misled somebody. That's not part of Islam. So if you were unsure of these things, you should have just simply said, look, I don't know. I've never been married before. I don't know whether I'm going to be accepting of that or not accepting of that. I don't know. And I don't want to say something because circumstances can always change. So as difficult as it is, if you lack knowledge or experience, then with a lot of these kind of things, you're just going to have to say, I don't know. Similar to, although as I said, it's less nowadays, I strongly advise sisters, before they agree, yes, I will live with the in-laws for a year or two or indefinitely or permanently, you need to think about it. You need to reflect upon it. You need to speak to people who have been in that situation. Don't just say, yeah, what's the problem, I'd love to serve my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and I like company anyway. Brilliant. Allah most I bless you, and I hope it works out. But you haven't understood it. It's not the same as living with your own parents.
What if people are pressuring them? So let's say from their family itself, they're saying, look, we've looked at many proposals, and most of them are like this. And, you need to just go ahead and do it. You're getting old. They're putting those things, which we spoke about in our podcast before, saying you're getting old. This.
Yeah, I think this conversation is turning into more marriage. So I'm just... a little bit. Okay, but go on. Yeah, so... Yeah,
it depends on how important it is to the sister. If it's just unbearably difficult, if it's just unbearably difficult for her, then no, it doesn't matter what pressure there's upon her, she shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Whereas if she thinks, upon reflection, upon research, upon consideration, upon speaking to others, she thinks, no, it's okay. Because not everybody's the same. I once came across a person who was given received a proposal, sister received a proposal, and she refused. Everything was fine.
I remember this one. You're saying it.
Yeah, he had no brothers and sisters, and his parents passed away. She said, I don't want to be in a big, large, empty house on my own. And then her family was saying most women would love for this situation, and this is back home as well. You see, where it's much more common to live with your in-laws. She said, no, I don't want it. It's not for me. And that's good. I respect that because the person knows herself.
She knows what she wants.
Exactly. Now, not just going with what everybody else is suggesting. Know yourself as an individual. So what am I going to do in an empty house all day?
Siddhi, so let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned brothers saying, they don't feel respected. Let's talk a little bit more about that, because again, I've seen a lot of discussion happening on YouTube, and some of them really sound almost as in there's they're combining respect and
obedience.
Obedience or serving the husband. So can you talk a little bit more about that and what do we mean Islamically?
Yeah, this is why.
What do men want?
Yeah, because no doubt, whenever I'm dealing with either an individual or both the couple together, with these kind of things, you always have to scratch, and you have to scratch the surface. You have to ask the questions, and you have to try to understand where the person's coming from, because it might be completely valid, it might be completely false. Oh, she doesn't respect me. Okay, why? What happened? She takes 20 minutes to pray Dhuhr and I want her to take 15 minutes. What is wrong with you? Seriously. Yeah, she's worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She follows the Shafi'i madhab and I want her to follow that. You are insane. You're serious. What's wrong with you? You see? So sometimes it's just stupidity. And sometimes, no, it's absolutely valid. Whenever she speaks to me, she's condescending, okay? Or she shouts, she raises her voice, etc., etc. You see, so sometimes that's the point. You have to scratch the surface. And this is why, of course, I do end up at times advising a brother who's been in touch and I try to advise him, or just a sister who's been in touch, I try to advise her. But I always prefer it when they're both together, because when he says that, then I'm going to say to the sister, is that true? Do you believe this is the case? And very often, Allah most I bless them, when in the sessions I have with people, they're very honest. So yeah, I'm sorry, I do. And I don't know why. And then sometimes I do know why. He spends no time with me. I'm frustrated. I ask him to spend time, quality time together. He never does it. And that's a need for me. And you see what I mean? So you really have to kind of understand where it's coming from. So sometimes it's valid, okay? And sometimes it's stupidity. I've come across terrible situations that really anger me, to be quite honest with you. There's a brother, he married a revert. And this is not, I shouldn't even say a brother. I've come across a number of these situations. Married a new Muslim. And mashallah, the new Muslim is very devout. Okay. Second wife. Okay. And then you have to work, wife, you have to work to sustain yourself because you're my second wife.
Oh, he said that to the wife?
Yeah, on more than one occasion. I come across this with some regularity. You have to work to sustain yourself. Okay. And then after work, you come straight home, you stay at home, you're not allowed to go anywhere. You're not allowed to leave the house without my permission. It's my right, it's my haqq. What happened to her haqq? First and foremost,
Saying that she has to work.
Yeah.
That's her. That's not
That's
her.
her haqq. What about her haqq to visit her family? What about her haqq to, visit friends? In the right context, of course.
Yeah.
What about her haqq to study Islam? What about her? You see what I mean? So
That's outright
sometimes you
stupidity.
sometimes you get really, really strange circumstances.
How do you even deal with situations like that?
Yeah,
Like,
you
what
just
can
want to
even
be
say
like,
the
brother,
person,
you shouldn't even have a first wife, let alone a second wife.
Yeah.
It doesn't even seem like they're the type of people to take advice anyway.
Yeah, very often, because that's the situations when I end up speaking to just one of the two parties, be it the brother or be it the sister, where I just end up speaking to one because the other one doesn't want to engage. Sometimes they do. And alhamdulillah, my experience has generally been good when they sit with me. Okay, they will accept that. Okay, fine, that's a problem. I don't think I've ever had anybody who's sat there and no, I disagree with you fundamentally. Like here and there, yeah, I follow this view. Okay, I understand where you're coming from, but just something I fundamentally disagree with you and just comes across as very aggressive or you see it very negative. I haven't had that very often. So, but that's the bigger issue is they won't engage.
So Siddi, this is all like things that essentially to prevent divorce, right? And I think there's a lot of things that can be done to prevent divorce. And I think going into our marriage podcast and studying the fiqh of marriage, even after marriage, etc., understanding the rights.
Fiqh of divorce as well, isn't it?
There's fiqh of divorce as well. So understanding the rights of marriage, etc., the rights and responsibilities of both parties. Now let's talk about, okay, when can you then say yes, divorce is? Because in Islam, people think that divorce is, some people even say haram, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Divorce is Sadia. I've heard
Something like that. Okay, it's like haram. But when we have instances of
is it correct in thinking that in Islam it is not encouraged? Like it's not like, oh, this is you to go do it.
But we have an instance of the Sahaba, Zayd radiallahu anhum and Zainab radiallahu anha. They both divorced, and I think if I'm not correct, they both married. Zayd radiallahu anhum definitely married. I think it was an elderly.
His first marriage was to Sayyidah Baraka or Mayman. His first marriage.
Okay.
His next marriage was Sayyidah Zainab.
Okay, so that was his second marriage. But then after that, he married. Was it?
After that, I'm not sure who Sayyidina Zayd married.
Oh, sorry. So that was his first marriage. If you want to marry a woman of Jannah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's his first marriage. Oh, okay. Fine. Okay. But going back to the point. Sorry.
Just before that, I just wanted. You can talk about it later. But I was also curious about how many times you've actually yourself encouraged divorce.
Oh.